Toddlers are typically notorious for being adventurous, getting into mischief, and babbling the day away. Unfortunately, not all toddlers can grasp the ability to communicate effectively. Autism spectrum disorder is a developmental disorder that affects not only the communication, but also the behavior in children. I received my associate's degree in human services in 2017, and I have worked with kids on the spectrum for about 3 years. According to the CDC, about 1 in 59 children can be identified with autism. That means chances are you might know somebody who is on the spectrum. Today, I would like to enlighten you on the possible characteristics, personal expertise, and what is known versus unknown about the disorder. First, let's take a look into the characteristics. Nicole Rodriguez, a professor from the University of Nebraska Medical Center, stated that just a little change can dysregulate a child's entire mood. I've worked with children who have very strict routines, and if one thing is thrown out of their routine, their entire mood is thrown off. This can make aggressive behaviors or unfocused interests, etc. The CDC also reports that a child with autism may have a hard time relating and noticing other children, or might not be able to communicate at all. John was a 12-year-old student that I worked with at the middle school, and although he was actually pretty popular, he had some unfocused interests that not a lot of the students would understand. John really liked water towers, everything about water towers. He looked at pictures, he went on Google Maps, and he could pinpoint exactly where it was. Eden, she was a 12-year-old girl that I worked with at the middle school as well. She was completely nonverbal, so she depended on signs, pictures, and her communication iPad to communicate. Another major characteristic are repetitive motions, behaviors, or sensory needs. Sometimes what I would see in students is constant hand clapping, maybe they'll rock back and forth, flick their hands, or look at it a certain way. That helped comfort them whenever they had a lot of anxiety. When children were overwhelmed too, I would sometimes use pressure. So I'd either put pressure on their arms, pressure on their shoulders, on their head, give them a weighted blanket, or even give them noise-canceling headphones to kind of calm down some of the anxiety they had going on. Now let's discuss some personal expertise relating to autism. Eden, the nonverbal girl I mentioned before, she was struggling with her first year of middle school, which is understandable because it's all new for everybody. She had a certain routine that she wanted to follow every day, and when things wouldn't go to plan to her, she would become aggressive. So she would bite, scratch, pull hair, push, etc. I felt pretty hopeless when I first started working with her. I had a hard time really relating to her at first because I thought to myself, how am I going to relate to someone that can't really communicate? But I actually found it pretty easy. She really, really liked sign language. So what I would do with her is we would sign numbers, we would sign colors, certain phrases, and she would really like it. So one thing that we had in common was the color blue. She really liked the sign for blue. So if she was having aggressive behavior, sometimes I would throw up the sign blue, and she would completely forget everything that she was upset about. Lindsay Adelaide, a middle school teacher from Pilgrim Park, was talking about how patience and understanding is the key to her work. Quote, "It's definitely one of the hardest things as a special education teacher is when you can't reach the child." End quote. Finally, we will dive into what is known versus still unknown about autism. Michael Goldberg, author of the book The Myth of Autism, expresses the importance of neurospect. Neurospect is a brain scan that shows the little holes in the brain of a child with autism and decreased function of the brain. Although it is unknown how the holes happen, it still shows on the neurospect scans. Another study, according to the scholarly article Epigenetics and Genetics of Autism, Mary Way touches on that there's no correlation between vaccines and autism spectrum disorder. Sasha Stenell, a special education teacher at Pilgrim Park Middle School that I interviewed, stated that I have a good enough understanding of autism in the sense that we know very little on autism. To close this off, my statements demonstrate the characteristics, personal expertise, the mystery of autism spectrum disorder. Rachel Barcelona, a woman from Florida, became the first contestant ever diagnosed with autism. She famously quoted, "Everyone has a mountain to climb, and autism has not been my mountain, it has been my opportunity for victory." Thank you.